Have any of you looked into investment accounts since we talked last? Just out of curiosity.
Investments accounts,
So,
like money management.
no, so we looked up just straight, like opening an investment account through Scottrade or E-Trade or
What about Robinhood?
Robinhood's the same. So let me share my screen and Robinhood. Stance options.
We're about to get blocked again.
Oh, maybe. I hope not. Yeah, this is what Ernesto was suggesting the last class. You can invest any amount. This might be an awesome opportunity for you to do it. Does anybody use Robinhood aside from Ernesto?
Yeah, I play with it a lot.
You?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I think it's excellent. I bought the gold. It's like $5. My friend told me or suggested I should, and it gives you a lot of information, a lot of good information.
That's great.
Yeah, I messed around with it.
And you can invest, buy full shares of stock.
Yeah.
And there's no minimum balance, right?
No, it's just however much the stock is.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy good how easy they made it.
And that's the beauty of technology and where we're sort of moving, right? Like the biggest challenge for a lot of people when they're getting involved in investing is the complicated sort of science behind it, right? And it's pretty intimidating to look at something and say, like, I don't know what's going to happen next week or the week after that, right? But when they make something simple for you to understand and for you to get started with, it helps you start to learn, right? So the whole big thing with investing is you take the time to, I don't know what that is, Tyler, Webull? But you take the time to learn it, and as you invest a little bit more money, and as you pay attention to sort of the terminology and what to look for, how to measure the stock market, and which stocks are going where, what trends are happening in the market right now, you become more well versed with it. I don't know what Webull is. Does anybody use that? Invest in stocks for free. What in the? Oh, wow. It does the same thing, Tyler? Allows you to invest in regular stocks?
Which one is it?
Webull?
Oh yeah, it's a newer one. It's like
What differentiates these? How do you determine one from the other?
man, I forgot, but there's something that Red Bull or Webull does. It's like a little better than Robinhood. I think it's like 100% free, or I forget. It's got something special.
$0 commissions.
Better info and graphics.
And it's crazy because
Commission free. That's what it is.
I started with, all right, we're going to get started here. But I started with TD Ameritrade because it was just really super intuitive and was easy to just learn as I went through. And but the platform is a bit complicated. If you look at the buying options and things, it's straightforward, but there's a lot of terminology that is not really explained too much. And as they've gone through the process of growing, they've started adding a little of those, those little notes. You have a little eye with a circle around it next to words, and you can scroll over that, and it'll give you the definition of what that word is and what it means. So yeah, better info and graphics. Really, that's like the differentiator for you guys. If it looks prettier, we'll use it. That's crazy. All right, so what we're going to do today is wrap up personal finance, and we'll have a little bit, hopefully, some more in-depth conversations about things. And if you have any questions, like please let me know. We could discuss it. We had some pretty good discussions last class that I hope helped some of you. But what we're going to do is wrap up the lecture portion, and then we're going to break you into groups, and you're all going to be filling out a college budget, all right? And it has to do with what, I'll show it to you when we get there, but it has to do with how you budget your time and money over the course of a month, right? So what comes in terms of cash and what goes out, how much are you spending? And in a lot of cases, it'll be pretty alarming to see how much money you're actually spending on things that are really not that important. But we'll take a look at that in a little bit, okay? So let me share, and then we'll get back into where we were. All right, so we left off here on credit scores. How many of you monitor your credit scores now?
I do.
You do?
Oh.
What do you,
Yeah. Yep.
what do you guys
All the
use?
time.
What do you guys use?
I think it's called Experian, but I honestly just did a credit pull through a agency not too long ago.
What do you mean?
Credit check. Sorry, credit check.
You know, you guys does anybody use Credit Karma?
Yes, and yeah, but that's not entirely accurate.
No,
Yeah.
it's not entirely accurate, but it's a free way to check, to soft pull your credit so you're not completely in the dark with how it's going.
Yeah, it's actually off by like a lot in my case.
Really?
But I mean, it's close, I guess.
Yeah, so you can also do what Luke was saying too. And your credit cards, if I go into my Citi card or my Chase card, I can check my FICO scores through there, right? And those are that's another representation of your credit score. But now think about what affects your credit score. So what do we know affects our credit score?
Being
Payments,
late.
All right, so payment history, right? What else?
Income to debt ratio.
Okay. So
credit
how much money
utilization,
what was that?
credit utilization.
All right, be more specific, Ernesto. What do you mean by that?
So if I have like 20,000 plus in credit available, and I have none used, that shows up as 0%.
Okay, so the less you use of your available credit, the better, right? The credit reporting agencies don't want to see you maxing out your credit cards every month and then struggling to pay them, right? It shows that you really don't understand how to manage your money well. This is where we talked about last week, living below your means. If you consistently hold your credit limits below 10%, right? Your credit usage below 10%, that increases your credit score. I think that's the best possible, I guess it's the best possible scenario, but in terms of credit reporting, that's the best you can do, right? Is under 10%, right? If you go under 12%, it affects your credit a little bit more negatively, but it's still really good, right? But if you can keep it below 10%, that means across all credit cards, right? So if you have 4 credit cards and each has a limit of $5,000, right? That's a $20,000 limit. You want to keep it probably somewhere below $2,000 across all, right? Your credit changes when you go to buy a car because you have a hard pull, right? That's one reason. For every hard pull, when somebody hard pulls your credit, they're basically checking your credit to either to really give you a loan in some manner or another, or rent you an apartment or something like that, right? So whenever you get a hard pull on your credit, it affects your credit score, right? And this is why I always tell students this. When I went to buy a car once, they went to go pull my credit to send to banks to see who would give me the best rate on a loan, right? This is back when I was stupid enough to finance cars, right? And instead of pulling my credit once and sending it to the banks, they sent my information to all of the banks, and 6 banks pulled my credit in one day, right? That's not good. And my credit score dropped pretty substantially, and there's nothing that you can do about that, right? So you need to be very careful with how many times you're walking in applying for loans, how many times you're walking in trying to sign leases on apartments or lease cars, buy cars, do any of that stuff, right? Because the more hard pulls you have on your credit, the less or the lower your credit will be, right? Basically says that you're not walking in anywhere looking to take money out because you've successfully managed your money enough to where you can afford everything in your life. The big one that most people don't have the ability to just pay for up front is a home, right? Shelling out a couple $100 grand isn't necessarily an option. But other than that, if you can save your money and buy a car or whatever else you'd like, then that's the more responsible route to take, all right? So that's another factor that affects your credit. So we have credit usage, we have your debt to income ratio, we have payment history, we have hard pulls. What else? What else could affect your credit?
Would lines of credit be one?
Well, that's your debt, right? So
Debt to credit, yeah.
yeah. So if you have a lot of, or if you have taken out multiple lines of credit, just because somebody, this is another thing too. I have had lines of credit, right? A line of credit is a bank extending basically a check to you that says, hey, you have a line of credit for $20,000. You don't have to use it. You only pay back what you use, right? They don't give you that $20,000. It's just available for you to use, right? So that's always helpful when you, if you know you've really shown the bank that you've banked with for your entire life, like Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, that you're super responsible, all of your bills are paid on time, your credit usage is below 10% sort of thing. You might be offered a line of credit, so in any pinch you could say, okay, I'm going to access this line of credit, I need $10,000 right now, so I'll take it out and pay it off over the next few months. There are other ways too that you can save your money. I don't know what age you have to be, but an interesting one that I just found out was my dad has been obviously putting money into his retirement account his whole life, and just found out that instead, and I hope this doesn't get convoluted, but instead of borrowing money from the bank, he can borrow money from his retirement account and pay it back with interest. So it's like he's giving himself a loan and paying the money into the retirement account after he has spent the money from the loan. So he ends up with more in his retirement account. So he can actually borrow money from himself, which is another interesting way, is sort of a running line of credit depending on how much money that you've been able to save, right? But your credit scores do a lot for you, and it's really important for you to understand how to use your credit cards appropriately and be, well, that's one way to help build the credit, right, is through a credit card. But it's really important too, your payment history is always big. And that's something that I've been very fortunate to never miss a payment on. So I have 100% payment history, and that's really helpful when I go in and I look to really do anything. My wife and I were looking for a mortgage, and we both have really good credit, great credit histories, low credit usage. And that helped us a lot in getting a great rate for our loan, for our mortgage, right? So it may not mean too much now. And this is something that I wish I would have been taught more in college, because it was just something that we had to learn as we got older, right? Not just how important it was, but how to build it responsibly and quickly. So as you start making money, save your money. Don't go spending it on superfluous things, and make sure you manage your credit. Do a little research into how you can build your credit quicker as a young person, right? That's why when we were talking about debit versus credit cards, debit card might keep you in check more, but a credit card will help you more in the long run, if you act responsibly, right? If you take out a credit card, if you have a credit card and the max limit on it is $500 or $800, and you spend $600 on an $800 limit every month, that's not going to help you too much, right? If you pay it off in full, right, then you're good. So that's another thing with credit cards, is you just have to pay the statement balance in full, right? You don't have to pay the total balance. My wife gets on my case all the time because I like paying the full credit card off, and I don't have to. I just pay the statement balance, right? So as long as you pay the statement balance every month, you're not carrying any balance over to the next period, and you won't be charged insane amounts of interest on it, okay? So keep that in mind as well. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of this? I feel like we could talk for a while on it, and I would be absolutely open, because it's important. So taking a loan from yourself is really a situation that I honestly don't know how old or what sort of bracket you have to be in to do that. But it's not a bad idea. It's just the same as taking a loan out anywhere else. There will be payments. If you're late on payments, it will negatively affect you, right? And most of the time, if you're taking a loan out, it's not, it's because you can't really afford what you're trying to buy, right? Like my dad did it because he thought it was great. He had to renovate his, he's a dentist, had to renovate his dental office. So he's like, well, this is great. Instead of like trying to take out a business loan, I'll just borrow money from myself, right? So there are exigent circumstances that exist, but as long as you can pay it back, it's never a bad idea. You just want to be sure that you're not overextending yourself, right? Most of the time, I see a lot of young kids go get car loans like I did, which was a very poor decision when I was 21, 22 years old. It's just living outside of your means doesn't really work well, right? Like we talked about last class, I've met a lot of people who are on paper millionaires but are cash poor because they just keep buying things that they don't need, right? That's a good question. As long as you can pay back whatever loan you're taking, and it's calculated, right? Especially from the perspective of an entrepreneur, you need to mitigate the risk as much as possible, reduce it as much as possible. If you're just taking out money to start a company and you've done no homework on it, you've done no data collection, you've done no customer discovery, and you just have this money now sitting in the bank and you have to start paying it back, it's not going to work well, right? Small business loans will not typically give you a loan unless you've been in business. This is what I was told when I was at Bank of America. Unless you've been in business for 2 or 3 years or something along those lines, and you've generated like 50 or 100,000, yeah, 2 years, dollars in revenue, something like that. I forget what they told me. This was a while ago. I don't know. What do you mean by that, Megan? My uncle and I were talking about taking a loan from yourself and selling equity. I don't know what that means.
Only thing I can think of is equity on a home, like that's maybe what she's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll do a little research to find out, or if you want to send me an email. His 401k is invested in stocks, and he's going to sell the stocks, or he's going to take money out of his. Oh, you're saying he's going to sell equity that he owns, sell stocks, and he's going to take that money out? You can do that, but you're not going to get those stocks back, right? So it's a sort of a catch-22. It's how bad do you need the money? Yeah, I mean that's sort of what we were talking about. My dad has had savings accounts that he was tapping into, but maybe he did tap into one of his investment accounts. I'm not really sure. I didn't dive that deep into it, and he had to sell stock in order to get cash out. But I don't know off the top of my, no, you're fine. Off the top of my head, how to answer that. But most of the time, like I said, if you're going to take out loans, again, you're balancing it with, do I want to give up the stocks that I currently own because the market, well, especially right now, is down. And if you sell stocks now, you're more than likely going to be losing money. But you've invested. If you invest in them now, I would say it's a pretty good time to open up one of those accounts and just stick your, not necessarily making big purchases. Does that make sense? I hope so. What? Yeah, my wife just said you can take a loan against your 401k instead of actually cashing out your 401k. So that's always an option too. She's here. She's my sidekick in case I miss anything. She keeps me in check.
Your producer.
Yeah, that's what she is. She's back there sort of giving me hand signals and mouthing words to me. And I'm like, okay, yes, this works. So I look really smart, and then she's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling the strings. Okay, so cool. We'll get moving. Net worth. Remember we talked about this. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. And again, this is just everything that you own straight out minus all of the debt that you owe, right? What you own minus what you owe, and that gives you your net worth, okay? Good. Now, what we're gonna do is get into an estimate of budgeting, right? For each of you. You're going to be given, this, because I think this is the last one, yeah. So we're gonna talk about budgeting. And this is what you guys are going to use, right? So monthly income, financial awards are like scholarships, allowance from parents, and other income, wherever you sell your books or something like that, right? Your monthly income is from a job if you have one. Financial awards or scholarships if you get those. If you get those each semester, just break them down by month, okay? Your allowance from your parents, however much your parents give you, and then any other income you have, and we're going to total that up. Your monthly expenses, you can add anything that you would like, right? So how much do you spend in rent and utilities and your cell phone payments? So when we talk about groceries, these should be too. Right? So when we talk about groceries, it's how much, even if you live with your parents, how much do you consume a month, right? What do you eat? How often do you eat at home? That kind of stuff. Entertainment would be anything you spend out. I would create another category here for eating out, because I know a lot of students don't really cook. They just swing through fast food, and that's their meal for the day. your credit card debt, any laundry services that you may use, and then anything else that you can think of, right? And entertainment would be what you spend when you're going out with your friends. Semester costs, these are all what it costs to go to college. So tuition, books, lab fees, transportation, deposits, all that kind of stuff. Transportation would be like parking decals if you pay for those, and anything else, right? Then we're going to break down monthly income, monthly expenses, semester expenses, and see what the difference is, how you guys are coming out on top, all right? So this document is up for you in Canvas. And what I'm going to do is stop sharing. I will assign the breakout rooms. Just do 3 per room and have you guys do a little bit of a discussion. And then we'll circle back and we'll do a little bit of a discussion afterwards, okay? So that document is in Canvas for you. So if you go to your files, you'll find it. Pull it up and start working with your group on it. You can discuss with them. You could cruise through it yourself. And then I'll be bouncing around the groups to answer any questions you may have. Once you get into your breakout rooms, remember, there's always the option for you to ask for help. And that comes from one of the drop-down menus on the bottom of your toolbar, okay? So if you have a question or something, you can ask for help and I'll bounce into your room, all right? All right, I'm gonna open the rooms and you guys can head in. Sweet. All right, Alexi and Ernesto, you should be able to get into your rooms.